get going to set up the mood, to have good conversation. So I wanted to, first of all, thank whoever put this seat here. The last time I did a teacher town hall, I stood for 3 hours, and it was pretty brutal. And so I'm going to sit today because once I finish up with you all, I have another meeting that I have to go to in terms of going over our budget to the board as we prepare to have the board vote in May on our board, on our budget for 2017, 2018. But what I wanted to do today, and I know we're going to have teachers coming in and employees coming in from different schools throughout, is to share with you that it's really up to you on how long you stay. Some of you may want to stay and just listen to a lot of the discussion. Some of you may say, hey, I need to ask my question. I need to get out of here. I have some other things I need to do. So you're not required to stay here until 4:45. I am, and so I want to make sure that you all understand that. So what I wanted to do just to get started was to share with you that I had an opportunity to meet with students this morning, some middle school and high school students right here at this school in the library, and it was pretty powerful. I will tell you, as the superintendent, I've been in this job now roughly 9 months, and by far this is the hardest job I've ever had. I mean, by far, it's just a lot. And talking to students today and hearing some of their concerns, certain things such as immigration and how it's impacting their ability to be able to pursue post-secondary education. We had a young lady stand up and was crying, and it tore my heart apart. But then hearing about some of the concerns regarding our curriculum, some students are not feeling like they're being challenged, and I think that that's a central office fix. That's something we have to take a strong look at as we're looking at our curriculum, and we have to make sure that the curriculum is moving well above and beyond routines and procedures, and that we are making sure that it's rigorous, but that it makes sense, and making sure that it's aligned to state standards. So our kids actually challenged us on that today. Like, we want to make sure that we are being educated properly, and then ultimately, as we look at central office, making sure that there's an accountability. I talk a lot about accountability. And when the strategic plan comes out, you are going to see a strategic plan that is one that people can easily understand. We have teachers that are serving on that core planning committee. We also have an instructional planning committee. We have additional teachers and some other employees that are on that committee. And we've involved the community in this process. We don't want a 400 or 500 page document. We want something that's going to be 20 to 25 and maybe 30, but it shouldn't be no more than that. And it should be very tight around the things that we're going to focus on over the next 5 years, something that we can obtain. So if we know right now we have a graduation rate as a school district of 68%, then it doesn't make sense to put in there as a goal that we're going to go from 68% to 78% in 1 year. I mean, it can happen, but it's virtually impossible. And I think you will have red flags going up all over the country. So set goals that are measurable. So if we need to move up, then we need to go from 68 to 71%, and then 71% to 75, whatever it may be. But then it requires that we put systems in place and we put supports in place so that our teachers, our faculty and staff throughout this school system are going to be supported and feel like they truly understand the direction that this school district is heading in. So right now, we currently operate under multiple plans. We have the academic plan, we have the master plan, we have what I've done in terms of recommendations from the post-entry plan after being here for the first 100 days. So we have a whole bunch of different plans that we're operating under. And it's almost like the arrows are just all over the place. Like the alignment isn't where it needs to be. So what we're hoping we will do as a result of this strategic plan is to get all of those arrows going in the right direction, and then to have you all feel confident and comfortable that you really understand what the targets are and what your role is in helping us to achieve those goals. And that's ultimately what I want us to be able to do. Now, before I get ready to open up the floor for questions and suggestions and concerns, I'm interested in the same thing that our Board of Education is interested in. And one of the things one of the board members said was, what would it take, Dr. Bedell, how much would it cost to be able to give all of our schools everything that they need so that they can be successful? So we priced it out. And in order for us to do what we've heard as we've gone in and we've done the school level evaluations, and we're thinking about instructional coaches and ancillary teachers and, social workers or psychologists, we're looking at nearly $19 million a year that would have to be added to our budget to be able to truly fund all that schools and our teachers and principals are saying. If we had these things, it would make life a lot easier. So what we're doing now is trying to figure out how can we free up money to indeed be able to do some of that. We know that we got some major press conferences that's coming down the pipeline, and I can't really open it up, but there are some major press conferences around some partnerships that we have formed that will take place over the next 2 months that is going to significantly help you all in the work that you're doing, and most importantly, help our families from an equity standpoint to be able to help better support their kids. And then on top of that, I've been going around and I've been speaking to a lot of local organizations here, and I went to an organization recently, and I'm being told that there are 4 or 5 major funders that want to help our school system. And the $1.3 million that I've submitted to them, they kicked back to me saying, we think you can do better. We can do better than this. So I think that we're going to be very intentional with what we ask for. That's part of the reason why I haven't asked for anything yet this year, simply because I don't have a strategic plan. And I think it's hard to go and ask people to give you money and invest in you when you don't know ultimately what the outcomes are going to be. But now that we have an idea of where the strategic plan is going, based on all of the community engagement, we actually engaged, I want to say, about 150 students in the process. So student voice will be included in this strategic plan. It's not just an adult-created strategic plan. And so having that plan then allows for me to say, we know what our goals are, we know what our key actions are, these are the things we want to do to obtain those goals, here's the resources that we need, and here's how we will evaluate whether or not your money is making a difference at the end of the year, so we can continue to have people go in their pockets to support us. Because Kansas City is a pretty wealthy city, believe it or not. Believe it or not. It's one of the richest cities in the country. So there's a lot of money here, and we got to leverage it to help our kids, and that's what I'm doing. So as we have our conversation, I will promise you that I will do my best to provide an answer. I'm not the type of person who's just going to sit up here and try to look good and give you an answer just so I can say, you can walk out feeling like, hey, he gave me an answer. If I don't know the answer, I don't know it, and I will find a way to get you an answer. But I want this to be an honest and transparent conversation, and I most certainly hope that we can grow from this experience. So I'll talk about these a little bit later, because I'm assuming the questions will come up. So here's what we would do. Anybody who's ready to speak, we should have planted a question with someone to get somebody started. Did we do that? All right, so we want to open up the floor and ask whatever, the direction the district is heading in, central office, your supports here at the school level, our students, whatever it is, let's talk. The students were just raw this morning. Let me be very clear. It was tough, but it was honest. All right, well, I'll just keep talking then. Have you all heard about our Hotspot initiative? How many people are familiar with the Hotspot initiative? All right, so we have less than half who know. So one of the things that we did in 2014, you all know that we gave our kids the laptops. We turned the district into a one-to-one school district, and as a result, we stopped purchasing textbooks. And so we then told kids that you're going to have to go home and you're going to have to do homework. And teachers were assigning kids homework, but one of the things that we didn't necessarily take into account was that roughly 70% of our kids did not have internet at home. So ultimately, how I learned about it was when I was sitting around and I was talking to students, and students were telling me their struggles with being able to complete their homework. Some students said they had to come to school at 5:30 in the morning or 6 in the morning, sit on the steps of the school in order to get the accessibility so that they could do their homework. And what we did then is, depending on your classroom, some teachers may do homework at 10%, some 15%, some 20%, and I've seen in my days where people were 25% of a student grade was based on homework. So in essence, then we created opportunity gaps, which is what I like to tell people, that's created by adults, and then ultimately it negatively will impact the achievement gap in terms of our kids being able to have a level playing field. So I went to my staff. I said, hey, this is what's going on, and while we had great intentions with this, we may have caused more harm than we did to help our kids. We need to fix it. The resilient staff found a way to fix it. So we formed a partnership with Sprint. So now every single high school student in our school district that does not have internet, as long as they fill out the paperwork, they will receive a hotspot. The hotspot will go home with them, and they will have that hotspot renewed every month and every year as long as they are a student in our school system through graduation. So we found a way to fix it, and I tell people I try to look at everything through an equity lens. Everything that I do, I don't have a problem talking about how race plays out in this city. I don't have a problem talking about how politics play out in this city. I don't have a problem talking about how it impacts our school system. But at the end of the day, everything that I plan on doing as a superintendent will be done based on an equity lens. An equity lens in ensuring that every single one of our kids have a level playing field to be successful.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
My question would be, of course, my name is Ralph Williams. I'm a teacher here, physical education teacher here. Last week we had some colleagues and myself had an opportunity to visit some schools in Omaha. And the schools we visited was all Magnum programs. Do you foresee something like that for our district, Kansas City, moving in that direction as going back to what it used to be back in the day, a Magnum program, or what would be the direction?
Yeah, that's a great question, and what I'm thinking is the first thing I want strong neighborhood schools. I don't want a zip code to dictate a student's final outcome and trajectory in life. I don't want that. I also will say to you that when I think about magnet schools, I worked in one. It was a hybrid. It was the traditional school, and then I had an engineering component to it. And the engineering component was very successful. I mean, overall, the school was a successful school historically. So I don't have anything against a magnet program as long as it's a magnet program that makes sense. We're offering something that we haven't been able to offer. One of the things that the master plan called for was pathways, right? And so these pathways would basically be career pathways that we would put in front of our kids where they will have some sort of articulation, right? And so ultimately, a kid knows that if they come to this school and they're taking, let's say it's engineering, and let's say the focus in engineering is high-powered rocketry. So then the kids would come in and they would take elective classes that would help design them, have them prepared to be able to build rockets by the time they're juniors or seniors that would crack the sound barrier. And ultimately, then there's an alignment. So knowing that you have to be very strong in math and physics, right? There's an articulation in terms of when you need to take math, and you have to take these prerequisite courses before you can take this particular course. So having that type of articulation is what we want to be able to do. Well, I think that even on my traditional side, I created 5 new career pathways. One of them was an education pathway, because I figure as an educator, it's my job and my duty to pay it forward to this field and get out here and try to figure out how we can help grow our own. So that was one that I did, and then was able to work with the University of Houston and some of those other universities to have this articulation that by the time my kids became a senior, they would do some of their internships at, working through the university with potential dual credit classes, but then going to one of the local schools to do their internship. So for me, I'm not necessarily sitting here and saying, oh, I want us to have a whole bunch of magnet schools, but I think the pathway model is critical, and I think it addresses a lot of the magnet school component, because then you don't eliminate, when you go with magnet, then there's usually some type of assessment and cutoff. And now, from an equity standpoint, some people get it and some don't. But if you take the pathway approach, then, kids that have an interest in that, then it's our job to kind of work with them and not automatically eliminate them simply because they didn't meet a certain criteria. I saw you raise your hand. You want to come up?
You were talking about classes and things that would help the kids for future jobs. I teach criminal justice. There's a really high interest in that. I have a lot of kids really enjoy it. They learn a lot. It also changes some of the culture that they may take with them on after high school. Changing the culture of such things as, snitches into ditches and things like that. So changing it to working cooperatively to change the society and the neighborhood into a better place to live, a safer place to live. I think the criminal justice should be offered probably at all the schools, which it's not right now. And we're really lucky because we do have the courtroom here, and the kids really enjoy that. And so I think that's one of the classes that should be really kept and maybe expanded to the other schools, because there's high interest and the kids come because they like to participate.
Well, one of the things I will share with you, I think it's what is it, like a standalone elective here? So it's a standalone elective. So what I would want to see is, how do you add, if there's a high level of interest from students, how do you turn that into a full-blown pathway where they're taking whatever courses they're taking, and then they're moving to the next level, and then ultimately then being able to have some type of exposure with our court system, or with our prosecutor's office, or whatever it may be. I will tell you, one of the things that we have done this year was we did go back and reinstate debate. And debate is actually going to be in our budget for next year. We want to have debate teams throughout our school system, high school and middle schoolers. I think it helps our kids with their oratorical skills. It helps our kids to be able to think on their feet. It gives them an opportunity to learn how to really deal with conflict resolution in a very productive way. And so that's something that I'm very big on, wanting to see that we definitely expand debate. But, I mean, we could have criminal justice here, and that could be something that could be great, and then we can offer something at another school. But I think it's a matter of making sure that we have student interest, and it's something that we have to build our way up to, because you can't simply offer sections if you don't have enough students, because then if the non-cores have, 13 kids in there, then the teachers who are teaching the core classes then are stuck with 35, 40 kids. So if we know that we have student interest and we have students helping to get out and promote it and recruit some of the underclassmen, you 100% can grow that out.
Right.
Excellent.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, she's coming up, and then you are welcome to come up next.
Hello.
Hi.
My name is Gail Richburg. I'm a science teacher here at Northeast High School. I am really interested in the situation of teaching as far as our teacher staff is concerned. We have some fantastic teachers here at Northeast that are retiring this year, and some have found opportunities elsewhere, and we're really limited. And I'm really concerned for our school for next year as far as being able to not only fill the positions that we're emptying right now, but getting more teachers so that we can offer more things here to get the students more interested in coming to school by having more opportunities to do different things. We've experienced different subs and long-term subs, and it is a challenge, especially for science, to try to have long-term subs to fill the whole year. It has really been rough. I am one of those that tries to support everyone and trying to give them things, resources, but it is really tough to try to take care of your own classes and then have to take care of 6 other classes or whatever. I really want to hear that we've improved for all of the high schools and middle schools as well as elementary, the way that we're going at getting our teachers, because I just feel right now other districts are taking some of the very good teachers that we could use right here. And I want to know, how are we going to try to keep things going and improve our attendance by giving the students more things for them to be interested in at our schools?
So this is a two-pronged question.
Yes.
That you asked. One is around enrollment and the impact enrollment has on what we can offer. The other one is around teacher retention and teacher recruitment. So let me address the teacher retention and teacher recruitment. I did have my staff to go and pull trend data to look at the number of teachers that have left our school district really over the last 5 years. In fact, we just had a board meeting last month where we actually presented to the board on one of the policies in 4.0 series that focuses on having a pipeline and what our teacher retention efforts will be and what are we doing to recruit. So what I can share with you is that we have done some things this year that, from my understanding, had not been done in this district in recent history. One thing we did was we went to all of the local universities, including myself, and we went to recruit directly at the local universities. The UMKC professor said he'd been at that school for 19 years, either 16 or 19 years, and he said this was the first time that KCPS has come into our university to sit down and recruit our students. One of the things I did at that recruitment experience that really shocked my human resource person was I said, I want every single one of you in here. I said, but every single one of you are not a fit for my school district. And we're not a fit for you. And I don't ever want to put people in a situation where we're destroying their career because they didn't know what they were getting into, or that they were coming in and they were destroying the futures of students. And I think that got some people motivated, because what I said is, if you're going to work in this school district, no, we're not Lee Summit. We're not Blue Springs. We're KCPS. Our kids come with a different set of variables that we as educators in this school system have to do more. We have to go far above and beyond, in most cases, what our scope of duty calls for. And many of you know that in here because you do it. And so then being able to say to people that we're only interested in the people who understand that you're going to have to come in here. You're going to have to be more than a teacher. You're going to have to be a mentor. You're going to have to be a parent in some cases, a big sister, big brother, right? So they know that. So we did that at each of the universities. We had our job fair at Paseo. We had the highest turnout in recent years. Nearly 200 certified teachers showed up. We offered early contracts, which we hadn't done before, to nearly 50 teachers. At one point, we had offered early contracts to 30, and we got 28 back that committed. And then we ended up offering it to more, and we've nearly filled all of those early contracts. So we've gone out and we've started recruiting. The other thing that we're doing differently is we're controlling our narrative. Listen, KCPS hasn't been getting trashed in the media. I mean, honestly, when's the last time you saw a real negative story on us? We get some things that happen, but it was transportation at the beginning of the year, and then we had the gentleman from 96.5 who did a video, and we went and addressed that right at the studio. But for the most part, there's been positive media attention on our school district, so people are beginning to look at our school district not from a deficit lens, but more from a resiliency lens. So we're revving up on the recruitment. In my reorg, I'm hiring recruiters so that we can make sure that we are doing what we need to do to go out and recruit even earlier. We're also going to change how we do our onboarding. What we're doing to bring teachers in, right? They need a couple of days of onboarding. And we need to roll out the red carpet, and we need to give these people the Rolls-Royce treatment, that this is how we're going to treat you if you are an employee in our school district. But then the other component is making sure that we're connecting them with the right type of mentors too. Right? That we need to be intentional in how we connect people with mentors, because I've heard from new teachers, I'm not getting enough support from my mentor. And I remember when I first started teaching, I had a phenomenal mentor. She was right next door to me, and she helped me through that first year, which was a very intimidating year for me as a first-year teacher. So I think there are things that we have to do a better job of, but then I would even say just what I'm doing right here, coming in here and talking to you all, hearing from you, showing our appreciation. We're doing our Teacher of the Year banquet on May 1st. It's going to be a very nice thing, but we want to show our teachers that we appreciate you all. And we hadn't done a Teacher of the Year appreciation banquet. I don't know, some people in here may have been in this district for 25 years. You tell me when's the last time we did one. So we got to show our people that we appreciate them and that we value them. And then I have to go and I have to fight at the state level. And what I try to tell these legislators and the commissioner is, proficiency is important for me, but what's more important is value add. And my teachers need to be given credit when they have kids who are coming in and they're already 2 or 3 years behind, or when they enter kindergarten, they're already 11 and 13 months behind. We need to have credit for the work that our teachers are doing, and we need to be able to validate that. So these are some of the things that I'm doing. Now, the second part of your question was around being able to offer programs, and I know what you're saying, rich elective offerings for our kids that will help engage them above and beyond what we're doing with the core classes. Our problem in this school district is, and it's not even this school district, it's this state, it's this city. The educational landscape here in Kansas City is just simply broken. It's broken. Let me explain to you why. You have 25,800 school-age students in this area, and you have 13 high school options. 13 high school options. You go to Springfield, it's the largest school district in the state of Missouri. They have about 25 students. How many high schools do you think they have there? Anybody want to guess? 4. They have 4 high schools for 25,000 students, which is about accurate. So we have high schools here. Anything where the enrollment is below 800 is just very difficult to offer a lot. I got high schools with under 500 students. All you can offer them is the bare minimum for them to get their high school diploma. Now, that's just not impacting KCPS. It's also impacting charters, because you only have 3 schools in this area that have over 1,000 kids. That's East, that's Lincoln, and Lincoln is in part because you have the middle school there. And then you have Academy Lafayette. Is it Academy Lafayette or University Academy? University Academy, all right, and I think that's K through 12, and I think Frontier has about 1,500. But there's only like 4 schools with over 1,000, and there's not really much you can do in all of these small schools. So then you're talking about opening up. My understanding, next year 700 more seats will open up that are charters because of expansions, and there's a charter school, Hogan purchased a building, so they're looking to open up 200 more seats in a market that is already saturated. Yeah, give me that sheet. So the problem that we have right now is we're very inefficient as an educational system as a whole in Kansas City. And the biggest loser in all of this are our students, because some of them will leave us and they will go to charters. Parents will get in there and realize these charters aren't delivering on what they said they were going to do. Well, the public schools aren't delivering on giving our kids a rich experience either, because we simply can't. So something has to give. But when I look at this sheet right here, and I'm looking at SY18 expected additional seats, 698, in an area where the school-age population has been declining, we're saturated with seats. It's impossible to offer a rich experience. So what happens now is, because your charters and your public schools can't give these kids a robust educational offering that they deserve, people get frustrated and they're actually moving out of the city. They're moving into the suburbs, they're moving into Kansas. That's why we've had a decline from 41,000 students roughly 10 years ago to 25,800 right now. And it's not going to slow up. So the only thing that then that we have to begin to say is, right, what do? Are we proposing more school closures? I mean, nobody wants to close more schools. And I'm tired of selling our buildings, because my goal is to hope that we can flip this and get this school district in a trajectory where we're going to start bringing people back. But I just want to share with you, this is what the data is telling me. And so the educational landscape is something that we all need to do some further investigating on and begin to say, when is enough enough? And when you have legislation coming down the pipeline, House Bill 634, expansion of charters, but they only saying that they're only going to allow expansion of charters to happen in St. Louis and Kansas City, so it's okay to compromise the educational experiences of your primarily poor children in those two school districts by having all of these charters open up, but everybody else gets to stay together in elementary schools in the suburbs, middle school, and high school, and our kids get trounced. When I talk about football, Hogan Prep steamrolls everybody in this area, and they get in the first round, they get killed. As a superintendent, I know some of you would like to be able to travel and go watch our kids compete in a state championship competition. But based on the educational landscape, that's not going to happen in my lifetime as long as I'm here. So the reality is, we got a lot of things that we're up against. We have a lot of things that we're up against. And I, too, want to make sure that our kids get a rich experience with these pathways, with the unique electives. And so that's the conversation that we're having with our board right now around what we need to do differently moving forward to make sure that our kids get what they deserve.
I understand that. I guess I see it either, the glass is half empty or half full. And I feel really here at Northeast, we're half full. We just need more materials to be more competitive so that we can then get some of our students back from the charter schools, showing that certification here, the amount of certification of our staff, the amount of quality that we offer,
right,
and the certifications that we can help them achieve. I think we're able to do that here at Northeast High School, and I just think we need to kind of toot our own horn a little bit more, yes, to get these parents to understand what we can offer their students.
So I know that we are doing our marketing different, and to your point, we have actually assigned, I want to say Joe over here, is this one of your schools? So we have assigned central office personnel, 2 people who will be working directly with our schools to help with the marketing component. Because the truth is, I remember when I went through my preparatory program to get a master's, marketing wasn't one of the courses. And I remember when I got my doctorate, marketing wasn't one of the courses. It wasn't something that people really had to worry about in the public school sector. But now we do have to market, and we have to be able to brand our school in a way that allows for people to say, this is the reason why you need to go to KCPS or why you need to go to Northeast High School. So this is something that we are working on. We've made some changes in central office around the whole marketing piece and what we're going to do to really continue to control that narrative. So that's a great point. Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
I'm Dora McNeil. I'm in the Special Needs Department. And my question is, on March 22nd, there was a landmark decision that came down from the Supreme Court on special needs students. And how is the district going to meet this? Because this is a landmark case that will involve providing more opportunities for special needs students as well as services.
Well, I will tell you, our goal is to make sure that anytime there's major laws that impact us from the federal level, that we're going to be trained on that we will make sure that our legal department is working directly with our instructional staff to ensure that we are following the laws. And I know with special ed, having worked in a school for 3 years where we had nothing but special ed kids, the law is pretty much upside down. You're pretty much guilty until proven innocent. And in particular, when you're not adhering to IEPs, when you're not following what the federal standards are calling for. So this is something that we will work on as a staff. We have a new deputy superintendent of instruction who's coming in, and that will be something that she will be charged with, as special ed would fall under her department. So we've made some changes. We have a new chief legal officer who was very successful in our school district and is back in our school district now. So I'm really looking forward to us just working together and being very cohesive and making sure that any legislative changes that come down, whether it's federal or whether it's local or state level, that we are on top of it so we don't get our hands smacked or anything.
So will we be implementing some of this in the fall?
I would tell you, I'm not going to sit here and tell you, I don't know 100% what is in there at this point. But if there are things in there that's saying that we, yes, have to immediately make adjustments to, then the answer is yes. Okay. We're not going to continue on a path when the law dictates we have to go another way. Hello.
Hello, I am Kia Turner, the instructional coach here at Northeast High, and my question has to do more with schools' roles in facilitating community partnerships. At Northeast, we just took a team of teachers on a tour of Omaha Public Schools just to see how they've managed to re-energize the community around the school and get that kind of community buy-in and investment in the form of, in some cases, communities getting together and donating money directly to the school, and the schools having individual foundations, and then in other cases, them coming in and providing like classes, after-school activities. Do you think that there's room for schools to do more to bring those community partnerships in on their own, or is that something that perhaps should just remain at the district level and then trickle down? Because I agree with Ms. Richburg, we're really working here on changing the narrative about our building, and a part of that is interacting with the people that are directly in contact with us in our community.
Yeah, I never waited on central office to tell me how I need to interact and interface with my community as a principal. That's number one. But I also came into a situation where the community didn't want me there either, so they were protesting me when I was hired. So that was unique in itself. But I had to find a way to win over people, and it was just getting out and doing basically what I've done this year. I've been all over the place in this city.
True.
Right? I have, whether it's playing basketball over on 43rd and Paseo, or, going out to the Waldo Festival, whatever it is, I have to get out there and let people know that I'm a part of the community and that we need your support. I did that as a principal. I've done it as a superintendent. I think our schools have a lot of control in that. I mean, we have a principal over at Longfellow. I think he's done a sensational job of getting out and getting into the community and really building up a tremendous amount of partnerships. So to me, that's simply around schools having the will to do it, leadership saying, let's get out here and let's figure out how we can get our alumni pumped up and get them involved. My alumni association, they had over a $100,000 budget. They did a big event every August. People flew in from all around the country, and they raised money, so at the end of the year, they were giving out scholarships to our kids, roughly $30,000 in scholarships every year. And this was a high school. And it was simply because we wanted them to know that, hey, we're going to create an alumni room, alumni association room. The guy over at Central, he's a new principal over there. He just created an alumni association room. You go over there now, you're seeing a whole bunch of people from the community that are now coming onto his campus and sponsoring classes and going in there and supporting his students and writing checks. But you have to get out and get into the weeds first in order to inspire people. You just can't sit back and expect that people are just going to come to you. It don't work like that. So I highly encourage that our schools get out and do their part, but just make sure that we're adhering to our policy and procedures, because you know, I'm noticing, I saw on the news the other night, somebody had a GoFundMe fund, and I'm sitting here like I'm not understanding this, and I know it didn't go through legal. There has to be an accountability on how money is being raised and how it's being spent, and so making sure that we're following district policy and procedures as we're doing these things and we're enhancing these partnerships.
Thank you. Good to know.
All right, absolutely.
Good afternoon, Dr. Bedell.
Good afternoon. How are you?
I'm doing great, but let me first start off by saying thank you. I wanted to make sure we did that because, as you know, I've sent you emails on different subjects about the issues that we've had. I'm with the Missouri Option Program, and it is to my delight, the delight of not only myself, but the staff and the other teachers, and especially the students, for all the changes that you did bring about. I want to say thank you, especially for sending Dr. Harshaw over to Missouri Option, because when she came, she was not afraid to embrace the leadership role. And so when she came, she did not mind making the tough decisions and say, you know what, we've got to right what has been turned upside down. So as a result, students are testing, students are graduating, and right now, this year, what we're looking at, we have about 70 students, and we're looking to graduate maybe about 90%. So at least 60 of those students we're hoping to graduate by the end of summer school.
Oh, that's awesome.
So they are just doing outstanding, and as I said, I could not come here without saying thank you, because I know sometimes it seems as though I'm sending you these emails, but you notice that since Dr. Harshaw has been there, you've only gotten one from me.
That's true. That's true. You're right, just
That's
one.
Only one. Now, since everything is, and I'm going to tell you, when it comes to that program, Missouri Option Program, there's nothing that I can come here and ask you for, because you've come through on absolutely everything, whether it's the students' testing, the way they're put into the classes. Everything.
They get laptops?
They got their Chromebooks to take home.
They have hotspots?
They have their hotspots.
Okay, just making sure.
Everything that I came here and addressed the last time, you've taken care of it, and so I can't ask you for anything else. All we've got to do now is turn out the students on behalf of our school district. Now, I do come to you with a problem, but it's not a bad problem. It's just one that I want you to be aware of, and I think that's my last email that I sent you. And it's about parity in education.
Okay.
Because of the fact that, as you know, this is Miss James, and she is one of the teachers, and we have one other teacher. And Missouri Option, we have 3 teachers. But our only problem is this. We have, in the past 4 years, graduated over 220 students. And these are students who would have fallen through the crack, because the first year that I came, the program was going to shut down because of the fact that it wasn't worth it, because you were graduating hardly any students. The first year, we as a staff graduated 30 students, and since then, every year we've graduated more. Now, the 221 students, that does not include the ones who are graduating this year. So we should be close to 300 students who otherwise would not have graduated. Now, the problem comes because of the fact that although we're doing this, we are not afforded the same pay as even the first year teacher. And the thing is that this is what we're asking for, parity in education. Right now we have disparity. We're doing the job. We're in the trenches. We're working with the students. We're changing their behaviors. We're graduating. We're seeing them go on to college. And I think we even see you all using their data for accreditation. But we just don't understand why it is we are not getting paid according to what your teachers. Right now you've gotten everything totally separated. because now we have the adult ed, and we are now back with K through 12 as we should have been. And so now you've gotten us back there.
Are you all certified teachers too?
Yes, our
Okay.
certification comes through the state. And this is something that whenever we last spoke with Dr. Laffey and also with Andrea Flender, we gave them all of this information. But that's why we were requesting a time when we, the teachers, can get to you, be able to meet with you so that we can be able to sit down and explain why we feel. And I do believe that if we're doing the same job as the regular teachers, and this is the only school district with Missouri option program where the teachers are not paid according to the regular salary schedule.
We're the only school system?
You're the only one. The only one. And that's because we had been lumped together with the adult ed. We are not part of adult ed, but at that time, they did because there weren't very many students graduating. No one knew about Missouri option. Now, it has become so successful, and I think it's really imperative. When we're saying we're going to graduate at least 60 students this year, the potential is to just grow this program.
All right, so here's what I will share with you. We will 100% take a look into that. Before you came in here, I was sharing with people that everything that I plan on doing is to apply an equity lens in how we conduct business, what we do in central office, how we're interfacing with our staff, but also what we're trying to do for our students. So we will 100% take a look into that. I know I have, I don't know if it's a bi-weekly or monthly meeting with Andrea, so we can make sure I see her back there. We can talk about that at our next meeting too.
Okay, and one of the reasons that we want to bring this to your attention is because we have been discussing this for 3 years.
Okay?
And for 3 years, so that's why for us, we're not talking about negotiations for all the teachers in the school district or all the staff. And we're talking about 3 teachers in a program where we get paid less than anyone else. So we're talking about bringing us up to par first.
Well, we will definitely take a look at what
Okay.
is happening around other districts that
All
have
right.
the same program, and we will make sure that we're responsive in that.
Okay, thank you so much.
No
And once
problem.
again, thank you for all that you have done for the Missouri Option Program. It has
Absolutely.
been great.
I'm happy that things are going well. You know, I'm a big alternative school guy
I know.
too, so yeah, we want to
Thank-
make. My whole thing was this, and I shared this with my staff. I shared this in a cabinet meeting. And I said, listen, I don't want people coming in here and advocating for Lincoln if you're not going to advocate the same way for the students that are in our alternative schools, because they are our kids too. And that's the approach that I've taken from day one. So I'm glad that things are working out.
And that's what makes you a good leader.
Oh,
Thank you.
I appreciate that. Don't hear that often.
Maybe different next week. I'm just joking.
Hi, Dr. Bedell. I'm Colonel Hilliard from the ROTC program, as you can tell. And the question I have, I've been here for 17 years, and when I first got here, we had 415 activity buses. And I know they're just saying we had in the military, no Bucks, no Buck Rogers. But we had activity buses that left at 4:15 4 times a week. And it was able for teachers to actually have after-school activities, not just ROTC, but it could be debate, chess club, et cetera. And I think the problem right now is there's tutoring buses that are, I'm assuming Title I, that do twice a week, but that's particularly supposed to be focused on tutoring. And then there's sports buses that don't leave until 6 p.m. And I just think if we want to, even if twice a week, if we could have, like I said, 4:15 or 4:30 activity buses, I think it would give our kids an opportunity to stay after school, and the teachers that would want us, because I think that'd be a reasonable time for them to stay.
I think that's very fair. I think that's a very fair request. I will share with you that I sent an email to my interim chief finance officer last Thursday, and I said, I need you to go ahead and put an RFP out. I want to hire a company that will solely handle our extracurricular activities. So there's an RFP out right now, and I will assure you that the extracurricular program will boom next year as a result of what we're trying to do. The other thing is, There's another press conference coming down the pipeline, probably sometime in May. I always look over at Miss Allen because she's like, you know, you talk too much. But, you know, there's a press conference coming that's also potentially will help us address some of those issues. And then what I'm trying to do now, especially as we have our new Chief Financial Operating Officer who's coming in from Columbia Public Schools, I want to eventually begin to buy our own buses. I want to build our own fleet. I tried to take it to the board. We're just not ready for it right now. It's given the budget situation and some things like that. We pulled it off the agenda, and we were still looking for a lot, which I think we've been able to work out something with the city to potentially have a 6 to 8 acre lot. But if we can purchase our own buses, we can begin to purchase buses and start using those to handle some of our activities. And one of the things that students said to me this morning was that it's taking them forever to get home because you got so many students on the buses because there aren't that many coming to pick kids up. And so they're struggling to get homework done. Or they're getting done with track. Like my daughter, she didn't get home last night until about 8:15. So had to eat dinner and then still had to do homework. I don't think that she went to bed until midnight. But what they were asking is, well, Dr. Bedell, what about putting hotspots on the buses? I said, that's already part of our plan. When we start buying our own buses, you put hotspots on there. That way, as the kids are traveling to and from these events, they can open up their laptops and start doing their homework. So we kind of have a plan in place, and I want to make sure that extracurricular programs is a big deal for me. I would not have graduated from high school had it not been for sports. And so I want to make sure that next year we're not having these issues that we're having this year with transportation. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Dr. Bedell.
Good evening. I can get loud too.
Well, I got my PE voice, I'm sorry. My name is Renee Smith. I'm the health teacher and the athletic director of Northeast High School. I want to speak on your request about the sport buses. I know that there's been some issues dealing with that. One of the reasons is we're having to go in between routes, and that is a big, big problem, especially when you have early events, especially events about 4 o'clock, 3 o'clock. So I do appreciate the fact that someone is finally looking into maybe having a separate set of buses for sports. And really, there is a little bit difference between sports and activities, because even though the more sports that we have, the more children we have, the longer it's going to take them to get home. So that could be one of the reasons why students don't stay, because it does take them so long to get home after those activities. But I just wanted to kind of reflect on some of the things. I also was a product of Kansas City, Missouri School District. This is my 36th year. Wow. I retired and came back. So I just wanted to make sure, and I do appreciate the fact that they are looking into something to help the sports program out, not only at Northeast High School, but all throughout the city.
So you understand, like, I'm a sports guy.
Oh, yeah.
But my kids,
Oh,
my
yeah.
2 older kids are in everything. They play sports throughout the year. So
I was a year-long athlete, and I
so
coached
the
year-long.
issue is, I go to these events and I critique everything. It might be unfair to the athletic directors, but I critique how our kids look, right? The
Yes.
uniforms that they have.
Yes.
I critique the organization of our sports. You know, are our kids getting the rich experiences that they deserve? I look at planning. Are we doing what we need to do to get these kids in tournaments? Are we timely with the communication that we give to parents? Because as a parent, I've been frustrated not knowing that my daughter's going to be in a track meet until she texts me the day before. I can't operate like that, and I don't think it's fair for other people in here when, you know, you as a teacher may have plans to do something with your students, and all of a sudden, something pops up that should have been scheduled. So I just want you to know I'm going to be looking at all of this stuff. I'm going to be looking up and down. We're building these new facilities. So now, how do we now leverage these facilities to bring in money to enhance our athletic program? I want athletic directors we want to be able to have invitationals out here on this field, track and field, where we're right at home, we can sell concessions, we can raise money so our kids can have the finest opportunities to compete in a very proud way. So I'm going to be taking a strong look at our athletic program. So, but I know we got to do our part in central office first. All right, you can't go critiquing what's not happening when we can't even get the school buses to pick kids up. Or, you know, so I'm just letting you know I'm looking at all of this stuff inside out, and I promise you it's going to be a whole different experience for our kids.
Well, I understand that, and when you do get a chance, look at the VNN sports site, and I think Joe can attest to what Northeast has done to try to promote the sports activities for this year.
All right,
Thank
sounds
you.
good.
Good afternoon, Dr. Bedell.
Good
My name
afternoon.
is Lois Green, and I'm the marketing teacher here. So I thought it was very interesting that you said that the central office is trying to do different things to market our whole program. That brings me to the fact that as a marketing program, I'm part of the CTE program, and it's interesting that we don't have a lot of options in our schools for our CTE kids. I'm the only marketing program that offers DECA, which is our student leadership organization.
Very familiar.
I'm the only one in the school system right now that offers that. That to me is doesn't speak very highly when we have students that are wanting to go into business.
Yes.
And we don't have those leadership programs available. And I think also my question probably more so is direction of CTE as electives
Okay.
or as a program, and what's going to happen there.
So I have an answer for that. You guys are taking it easy on me today. Okay, so listen, I graduated from a voc ed high school. I did electrical construction. Starting in the 10th grade year, I had an opportunity to take my level 1 all the way up to level 3. And in my senior year, I worked at Kodak, making $4.25. I thought I was rich, right? But I had an opportunity to really go out and utilize my skill set in a practical way. So I actually had a meeting 2 days ago with Rashawn Carruthers, and we're going to make some changes with our CTE. Rashawn is going to assume the responsibility of being over all of CTE. She is a director now, but part of our problem is we had her serving as a director, but she was also running the school. You can't do both. So you got to have one person who's going to own it in central office and be that conduit to all of these different organizations that are wanting to have expansion. There's a lot of businesses that want to see our CTE program grow. I want to see it grow. It's a part of the master plan. When we talk about these pathways, a lot of those pathways include CTE-related courses. So July 1, she will assume her role in central office as being the point person. I've already gave her a list of things that I want to see happen. We're going to evaluate her based on growth within the program, creating and establishing new programs in our schools, but not just for the sake of having standalone electives. I don't want that. I want our kids to be able to graduate and they have certificates, they have some type of credential that if they want to go right into the workforce, they can do that. So she's being charged with that. I told her she's got to come back to me and give me baseline data on where we are right now as a school district with these kids who have their certifications or licenses or things of that nature. And then we're going to gradually build it out. But we are moving forward now to having that be fully supported in central office through her. So the future is going to be bright in that area.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Dr. Bedell. Good afternoon. It's me. I'm Dr. Counts, and I'm here from Southeast High School / the African Centered College Preparatory Academy. And I don't know if this is a comment or if this is a question. I teach college admissions prep. I have 6 classes, met you at many A+ meetings, and 2020 leadership. I found out that my position was being cut. So my question is twofold. I asked to stay at Southeast when they merged last year because I wanted our students to have someone that they could look for in the maze of everybody that was familiar with them. Teachers wanting us to come back, and there are many of us that are in the audience too. So I taught college and career last year, admissions, and then I did it again this year. And now my position is being cut. And my struggle is, for 2 years, this district has spent a lot of money training me on Naviance, and now the position is going away. So I don't understand, if we're a district that is promoting college career, but yet we cut the teachers that teach that and utilize the program that you're spending thousands of dollars on, I don't understand it. The second question that I have is that I'm disappointed that when I was told that my position was being cut and I'm an elective, last year we were promised, the students were promised, that they would have a whole array of different electives. You're cutting the electives. I don't understand that. How do we, I'm asking the district to keep the promise. And if you're cutting the electives, and I'm one of them, what is going to be the replacement for me? And I heard it's not going to be, because we're downsizing the number of teachers in the building. But I'm disappointed that the promises that were made to the students and to the staff, that they were going to grow this school, that we were going to be able to offer more electives, the students would be able to participate in more sports activities, and then the second year, you start cutting.
All right, so first I'm hearing of this, of course, but that master plan clearly called for an expansion of elective classes at Southeast High School. It also called for an expansion of extracurricular offerings for our students. So I 100% will have to look into that, because you're right, that totally contradicts the master plan. I do understand that when you have enrollment, when the enrollment is dropping, we're put in a situation where we do have to make cuts, right? And we know right now as a school district, the last 10 out of 9 years, we've had a decline in enrollment. I mean, something has to give. And I think that if we're saying that the master plan was designed for us to be able to have Southeast as the school that would help us to bring back families and bring back students, then you're right. We've done a huge disservice on what we've sold to the community. And only thing I can tell you is I will look into it. I have my academic people in here. They're taking notes. We will look into it, and we will find out what's going on with that situation. Because that's not what I've been sharing with the board, that we were going to be cutting electives. Now, not at Southeast in particular. So I have some explaining to do to the Board of Education when we're saying that we're trying to grow out and we want to have more unique elective offerings over at that school. And I know we had Prep KC to come in and to basically do a study for us at all of our high schools on the readiness of increasing the pathways, which are those elective classes. So this is one that I will have to look into. I'm not making any guarantees or promises, but I have shared with my staff that if money was available, I'd love to be able to have a college access coordinator at each of our high schools. The kids talked about that today. Like, nobody's really in place to really help us to navigate through this process of being really prepared to go to college in terms of the paperwork, the scholarships, the interest letters, all of that kind of stuff. So I've already shared that with my team. Like, listen, if we're able to free up and find some money, we get some funders out here, I would love to have that in each of our high schools, because I want to see that we're increasing those opportunities for students. So I will 100% look into this.
And I was also told, trying to get everything right, that my position was needed to hire another social studies teacher. So once again, if we're emphasizing college and career, you shouldn't be cutting your college admissions teacher. Thank you.
Well, I'll be talking to school leadership. I mean, we're working on Southeast anyhow. You know that.
Thank you.
All right.
Hi, Dr. Bedell. My name is Shirley Sampson. I'm the school nurse at Success Anderson. And my question is, because it's an alternative school, and I know that you recently started up a trauma-sensitive team to work on things like that. But what I'm seeing is like a revolving door. They're in juvenile, they come to us, or they go to Arts Tech, but we're getting more and more students. And I'm wanting to know, what are we really doing to truly assist these students? I understand that they have a problem in sitting in regular school classes and they are not focused. Some of them have medical problems, some of them don't. Some of them have major behavior problems. But what are we doing as a district? Because these are still our kids, and we can't just let them go to waste or completely drop out of high school. So when you start getting 14, 15-year-olds who have no boundaries, and then I'm not saying parents aren't in this, but we need to do something that will help the parents so that they can be responsible for the students also, and the students can be responsible for coming to school and doing what they need to do. And I admit, many of them have a lot of problems, underlying problems that are never addressed. So do we have any school psychologists who's gonna address these issues? Do we have therapists who will deal with the students? Or do we have anything like in a gym, building a ropes course that will cause them to develop the potential to not just do what they do on a day-to-day basis? What are we doing for that?
So I think we're doing a lot right now. Just the formation of that department, hiring several people this year that have come from Truman Medical Center. We have entered into a partnership with this organization called Peer Edge, which will come in and they will provide training for us around therapeutic and like yoga and meditation and those types of things that we can begin to help support our kids with their coping mechanisms. The way I see us rolling this out is, I think you have to start with the babies first, right? So ultimately, if we're going to do this trauma-informed program, you got to start at the elementary level. You got to start with your kinder, first and second graders. You got to teach these kids how to cope differently, how to deal with anger management, and then you gradually grow them up. So ultimately, over a 12-year period, you have now successfully transformed the way that these kids are thinking, the way that these kids are conducting business, and that there's an understanding of how we will interface when we're having these major issues. And I think our plan has to be focused, taking it from that approach first. The other component that we're doing is our mentoring program. We're doing something that no other school district probably in this country is doing at the scale that we're trying to do it. I know we're a part of the My Brother's Keepers initiative, and there's about 30 member schools in there. We're the only school district that has dedicated an assistant superintendent position to focus on that, to then get these kids in a portfolio model. Because see, people do mentoring, and most of the time it's one form of mentoring for all of our kids. That's not how you're going to reach our kids. So for instance, I plan on mentoring 2 kids next year.
So this will start the 17, 18
oh yeah,
year
absolutely.
school
A lot
year?
of this stuff is rolling out for next year, but I plan to mentor. I'm interested in kids that come from a tough neighborhood, like me, but they love sports. I want to be able to get them in fantasy football. I want to be able to get them connected with the things that I know they love, that I love, and then also advocate for them that when you're going through these tough scenarios, here's how I'm going to help coach you through those scenarios. So a portfolio model then allows for us to customize where our strengths are with the kids that we're paired with versus just being paired with a kid and there's no connection, and then 2 weeks later or 3 weeks later, you're just, I can't do this. So that's something that I don't know of any other school district that's doing that right now. And I can tell you the Department of Education is looking at what we're doing at Banneker Elementary, because we're the first school district in the country to do the My Brother's Keeper initiative at an elementary school. It's primarily been for secondary schools, and we're doing it at Banneker, so they're watching and they're going to look at our data to see if this is something that can be replicated around the country. So I'm just telling you that the positive adult advocacy, putting those people in front of our kids, those things are going to help. Next year, too, I think the presence of us, I've already charged my team with, there's folks in here that's on the cabinet right now. Well, next year, once a month at minimum, each of us have to go and spend a full day on campuses and be there and be a presence. And I'm looking at a super sub program too. I haven't spoke to Andrea about this yet, but those of us who formerly were teachers and have certification, maybe twice a semester, we should take over and go in classes and serve as a sub so we can make sure that we haven't lost perspective.
That would be excellent, especially at our school, to give them the incentive to want to do better. I think a lot of our students, they really want to do better, but they don't know how to, and as a result, we're losing them. We're losing them to the streets. We're losing them to the gangs. So I'm standing here. I don't have children, but children are in my heart, and I'm standing here because I don't want to see them lost and slip through the cracks because they're at an age, they're not at the baby age or the kindergarten or the preschooler's age, but
You're right.
they can be salvaged.
We can do it, and guess what? As we've been going through the strategic planning process, what you're talking about is one of the 5 major things that have emerged as things that we have to focus on at the community. Actually, it's number 2. So if that's in the strategic plan, then you already know that we're going to have to allocate funds to make sure that we hit that goal. So I'm just letting you know that has emerged as the number 2 thing, which is developing the whole student. So that includes social, emotional supports that then will impact the academic performance in a positive way.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good afternoon, Dr. Bedell.
Good afternoon.
Taller than the other folks. I have 3 things, but I think I'll start with I'm Karen Sojourner. I'm an English teacher, 10th grade at Southeast. I'll start with the thank you. I like how the Missouri Option person has done that. Thank you for your weekly updates. Been watching your videos and reading the letters. I do appreciate that. So I, scroll down and get all the information about what's going on, and I really appreciate that because I actually read it, English teacher, so I'm a close reader. One of my major concerns is this thing about mental health, and I know you talked about that with the nurse's last question, but and I just kind of like to lay it out there. Our time on this earth is short. So I mentioned I'm at Southeast. You know the deal.
Yes, ma'am.
So I don't know how long you were following our district before you came. So originally when I worked for the school district, this has been a few years ago. My daughter was 3 when I left voluntarily. Now she's ending her freshman year in college. I've been back for 5 years. So in this interim, many things have happened with the superintendents. One was our alternative schools being closed. Whereas I'm not necessarily, and I too graduated from an alternative high school my last year in Chicago, Illinois. I have a great concern that many of our students are not typical high school students. Through no fault of their own, it is what it is. So our curriculum, however, is structured for the traditional or typical high school student. And so, what we're getting are quite literally explosive classroom situations. Teachers are not equipped to deal with these students. The students are not equipped, for whatever reason, to deal with the curriculum. And so we get these issues of attendance, fighting, poor teacher-student relationships. It's a big issue, again, as you know, at Southeast. And I'm concerned with moving forward. And I know we got some things that are on the plate for the next school year, but even right now, how do we save and salvage just in a real way, not in a let's patch this? I mean, it's a great concern. I won't even throw pregnancy in there. That's probably a private conversation we can have. I don't want to bring that up right now. So that's one thing. I'll just throw these out and you're going to answer them all together. One, I like this super sub thing that you mentioned. Again, concerns about Kelly, if anybody's here from Kelly. I'm just going to say this because I say stuff, so you're hearing it from me first. I think that they could use more training with the people that they're sending to our schools. Just in case there's any retired teachers here, I'm not talking about any of you all, but I'm not certain where some of these people are coming from. I really don't know, but they need more training because I don't think some of the people they're sending are appropriate. We have people leaving with kids in the classroom. We have people going to sleep. I don't understand that. So that's with Kelly. They need to be called to task on that. And this last thing, man, I cannot even read my own writing here. I just kind of scribbled that. So that must mean that is not super, yeah, this is another personal question. This is about, goes back to I watched your video, and I appreciate how you responded in terms of, because I'll tell you where the rumor started. No, I won't. Yeah, I will. Where the rumor started about, are we going charter?
Yeah.
That started with the concern that the union got out there. Yeah, I'm going to say it. I don't care. Can anybody whoop me in here? No. So they got that out. So I appreciate you addressing that directly. What I want to know, and again, you said that some of the things, the leverage, I guess, that charter schools have, I'd like to know if you can respond at this point with what schools you want to try that with and what some of those things are. Like you said, if I could do X, Y, and Z as the charters get to do, if you could talk more about that.
Yeah, so one of the things I did go and speak to legislators in Jefferson City, and I said to them that there's a huge imbalance between how we're looked at versus charters. There's little regulation over charters, which concern me. So what I said to them was, two things need to happen. Instead of opening up more charters, why don't you all have charters follow the same rules public schools have to follow? And then let's look at what their data looks like, given the same rules that we have to follow, right? Or give me the same flexibilities that charters have with the bottom 1/3 of my schools. So that means if I want to have extended school days, extended school year, I don't have to sit down and negotiate it in the CBA, right? People will know that, hey, if you're coming to this school, this is the commitment that you have to make, right? And we're going to pay you for the extended year, the extended school day, that there's going to be, if we saying, hey, everybody who works in this school, you're going to be required to mentor, well, you're signing up for that. And giving teachers an option that want to be a part of saying that, hey, I have the time, I have the experience, and I'm willing to do that. And if not, then, hey, there's other schools. We have enough people that I ran into who will say, I'm up for that kind of challenge, Dr. Bedell. So what I was saying was, give me the same kind of flexibility. And if we, and ultimately the other component is then some of the DESE rules, how you are reporting out the APRs, which you don't report out in most cases for charter schools. We have to go and find that. Well, give me time with my bottom 1/3 of schools to put the systems in place and build these schools up, and then eventually give us time to be able to prove to you that, hey, with this flexibility, we can perform as well as you believe charter schools are performing. That was my whole position, because what's happening is charters are opening up. We're continuing to lose enrollment. The teacher who just sat here and said, we have to downsize, I'm losing my job, they were losing our job because then charters, they have a cap. They don't have to hire a lot of certified teachers.
Right.
So let's say you all are losing jobs here because charters are expanding. They don't have to hire you, even though you have a certification. So ultimately, they'll hire whoever they want to hire, because the cap is not the same. It's 80% for them, whereas 95% for us. It's very inequitable. It's just not a balanced playing field. So all I was saying was, give me the same flexibility to be innovative and to think outside the box. And no, I don't want to I'm not saying that the CBA is in the way. I just don't want to have to sit down and every time we want to do something different, I got to go through CBA discussions. And that's
I agree.
primarily what I shared. That's what I shared with the state. I shared that with Andrea. It has nothing to do with me wanting to charterize this school district. I've told everybody from day one, I'm a public school guy, but I'm a friend to charters because I grew up with charters in Texas. That's all I know. But they were under the same accountability. They were held to the same standards public schools were held to, and if they didn't perform, they get shut down. The only people who's shutting down schools right now is us. And we got charters that are doing more damage to these kids. And then here's the other piece about charters. We can end up shutting down one of our schools. Let's say we shut down a school. Charters have their lottery process, what they say, right? I know a student that left for school and ended up going to enroll in a charter, and they did not admit this student. This student ended up getting into Lincoln and ended up graduating and is in college now. But they can decide in many cases on who they take and who they don't take. Did you all know that we have double the amount of students that have IEPs than charters have right now? Is that a level playing field?
No.
Right? And then ultimately, we take everybody who comes into our school. Even the kids who get kicked out of here, we're still the campus of responsibility. If charters kick a kid out, some of them don't backfill, so their classes get smaller. You will see that they have a class of 230 kids when they started their program, and they're only graduating 39, 40 kids. So where are these kids going?
Back here.
And let's say some of these kids, some of them drop out, some of them move, some of them are in other school districts, some of them come back to us. And when they come back to us, those same patterns that the charters managed to get rid of them, they with us for 3 or 4 days, they destroy our culture and climate because they haven't been with us, and then they end up dropping out, and they take several kids with them in the process. All I'm saying is level the playing field before you start holding me accountable and measuring me against charters, and you're saying that charters are better than the public school. That was my point. I'm trying to protect us.
So what was their response to that? And then if you wouldn't mind just kind of leading into your, if you have a plan for our alternative students in an alternative curriculum.
Yeah, so what I would tell you is Mike Searpoint, it was the gentleman that I shared this with, and he sat back and said, nobody's ever presented it to me like this.
Who is this?
Mike Searpoint. He's the representative, I guess, the speaker.
Of what?
In Jefferson City, Representative Mike Searpoint. He's the speaker.
He said nobody presented what to him?
Nobody's presented this scenario to me like you have. That's what he said.
Okay,
So
yeah.
I said, well, and then I even had that conversation with the commissioner, right, which I think she's open to it. She's open to the innovation. I think, and listen, I don't have a full planned out plan. I mean, that would require collaboration from people and saying, hey, this is something we want to do. I'm just going to make a point, like stop opening up all of these charters because it's killing, because ultimately the educational landscape here is totally toxic for our students.
Yes.
They're the ones that's getting ripped off. That's just the bottom line. And when you talk about opening up, like I said earlier, 700 more seats are slated to open up next year in a city that's already saturated. I mean, you're just going to have more people being frustrated with the overall educational landscape, and people are just going to continue to move out of this city, and that's what's happening.
So,
Now,
yeah.
you talked about an alternative curriculum. I don't believe in that. I just don't. I believe that we have to hold these kids to the same level of high expectations that everybody else should be held to, but we got to provide additional interventions and supports above and beyond.
And that's what I mean
the
when I'm
curriculum
talking
is
about
calling
curriculum.
for. So in several of our schools, the way that I survived as a high school principal, I took over a low-performing school in Houston. It was a dropout factory by Johns Hopkins. It missed AYP multiple years in a row. I ended up partnering with communities in school. They kind of helped me with some of my anger management. They served as a tentacle to all of the social agencies. They brought people in to work with my students. we actually have put money away. We're going to have communities in school in about 6 of our schools next year. So that's a start. We can't go big and as broad as we want, but we are gradually going to bring in these supports to kind of help our kids with some of that trauma and some of the mental health issues that they're experiencing with some of the people that we're actually entering into contract with. So I think we're going to have it in 6 schools next year, and we believe that that would help us out. But even as we're rewriting our curriculum, one of the things I told Trinity and her team as they're working with teachers is to make sure that we have links in there. Like there's going to be boxes. So to say ELL at the end. So if we're doing a unit on the 5 themes of geography and you're teaching that, then there needs to be links down there that somebody can go to that will say, for additional support for ELL students, here's the links that you click into. For special ed students, here's the links. For GT, we're going to build all of that into our curriculum so the curriculum is more responsive to meeting the needs of our kids where they are, but then we also have to be able to provide the PD for you all so we can also leverage the technology in a way that's going to give our kids, to reach them where they are and to help take them to that next level. So I'm sharing, I don't have all the answers to this, but I have a highly dynamic and an extremely intelligent team of people that will be starting in this district on July 1 that's going to help us figure all of this out.
Okay, and you'll get on that Kelly thing? Yeah.
On the what thing?
Kelly Services that provides substitutes for us?
Yeah, we'll work on that, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes,
yeah.
because I know, I'm pretty frustrated about that component. I do. I know.
And I'm going to send you the name of a student while you're thinking about who you want to mentor next year. He's a young man, and I'll send you his name.
Okay.
And an athlete. Basketball.
Oh,
I know
he's
that's
basketball
your thing.
too?
Yes, sir.
All right.
All right. Thank you, Dr.
Might have to post them up one day.
Good afternoon, Dr. Bedell.
Hi.
My name is Colleen Freeman. I'm the distance learning facilitator here in the land of the Vikings. And I have a couple of questions and concerns that I'd like to hear your take on. The first one is, as a paraprofessional, we work daily side by side with our teachers in distance learning. I also do credit retrieval classes here at Northeast.
Grad point?
Yes.
Okay.
And my big concern personally is so many of us paraprofessionals work so hard during the year, and then school ends and they say, figure out how to feed yourself, pay for your family, because we have no work. And we don't make salaries that are large enough for them to split over 12 months, so we don't get paid bi-weekly or twice a month like the teachers do. We get paid every 2 weeks. So we're mostly 10-month employees, and it really feels like abandonment when we get to summer. And in the past, when I was the district advisory committee chair, we worked within the superintendent. I said the district is hiring all these temps to do jobs over the summer, and when you have staff that's loyal to you, and we don't get any work. I think that's a big problem. I think that I've been with the district now 10 years, and I don't mind saying it, every year I start with my water off or my gas off or my lights off, because I don't get paid in the summer, and we don't qualify for unemployment benefits. There's some ridiculous hinky law in Missouri that doesn't, matter of fact, I got paid one year and I had to pay it all back. That was not fun. So I would really like to see the district look for ways to provide us with that additional employment over the summer time. So you don't have to answer, I'm just sharing.
Okay.
So I just want this to be something that you and your team, when you're looking at staff loyalty, people who do a great job for you, there are only a limited number of summer school positions. But I do think if we really look hard enough, there are ways that we can work during the summer. Most people don't want to hire you for
Yeah.
2 months.
I understand, and one of the things I shared with my team probably back in October or November was as we were just kind of thinking about, this is an example, transportation. And one of the things I was saying was that I know that we have employees within our school district that don't necessarily have to work those extended hours that sometimes teachers and administrators have to work. And what would it look like if we were to provide like CDL training, like we would pay for all of the CDL training, and then we would have in-house people who then could provide transportation for our kids,
After
you know,
school.
as an extension to kind of help with, you know, some of the extracurricular things. So we're not there yet, but that's where I kind of envision us going, is to leverage the personnel that we have already and to tell people, listen, the district will fund for you to go through your training and get your CDL. But that's one example of what we have been talking about that we're looking to do to help out with people that's in your situation. I will tell you that we definitely can take a look into when you say, well, there are temp people being hired, and we have people that may also be qualified that work, and they're only 10-month employees. That's something that I can bring to